Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome back into Gamecock Central. My name is Kendall Smith, joined alongside of Collyn Taylor after quite a night for Gamecock Nation yesterday. Spencer Rattler announcing his return to the Gamecocks. We've got plenty on that over on GamecockCentral.com, so be sure to check it out. But we're here today, Collyn, to talk about men's basketball. The South Carolina men's team defeating Kentucky on the road at Rupp Arena. Final score 71-68, and the first time since 2009 that South Carolina has beaten Kentucky at Rupp Arena. So I was 8 years old the last time that happened. My parents actually went to Indiana University, so my last great memory of one of my teams beating Kentucky was that Christian Watford shot back in 2011. This was giving similar vibes, Collyn. Huge boost for the fan base, huge game for South Carolina, and a team that really struggled against Tennessee last Saturday. How big is this win for this team?
It's huge. And listen, South Carolina ended the year knowing that it probably wasn't going to make the NCAA tournament, knowing it was probably going to finish at or near the bottom in the SEC. And this is a year one for South Carolina that you look for any sliver of hope, any sliver of, okay, we got something in this. And that's what, Tuesday was. And for South Carolina, yes, this Kentucky team is supremely talented. It's incredible. It's underachieving, but you still went to Rupp Arena. You still won a game in an arena that's haunted you for over a decade. You just found a way to win, and this is a team that is still trying to find its footing. There's so many new faces, and no one's ever really played for Lamont Paris before. So you look for slivers of hope, whether you're a fan, whether you're a recruit, and you realize, okay, they got something. They got something with Michi. They got something with Gigi, and certainly a building block. They have to capitalize on it, but it's certainly a building block as you move forward. And you have a really tough SEC, but certainly a glimmer of hope for South Carolina as you get into the final 15 games of the regular season.
And at the start of the season and during preseason, some people guessing that South Carolina might not even win a game in the SEC. And if they did win a game in the SEC, it would be a huge upset or whatever it might be. This for South Carolina is massive, and it's great for their confidence as well as they head into the rest of this tough schedule. And you mentioned some of those younger guys, obviously Gigi Jackson, Michi Johnson, for their confidence heading into this next leg of games for South Carolina. A win like this has got to do wonders.
Yeah, it's proof of concept. As a coach, you sit there and say, Gigi, if you just do this thing in this set, or if Michi, if you play with this kind of competitive spirit, you can do special things. And that's a proof of concept that if for Gigi, hey, if you spot up at the corner on this set, you're going to have an open look. He knocks down a big three late in the game to push it to 11. For Michi, hey, if you play with confidence, if you play with aggression, and if you get to the rim, these threes will start to open up. Well, he does that against Tennessee and to start against Kentucky, and then hit 6 of his 10 threes. So that you can reinforce if you're South Carolina. And I think that's huge for Gigi. I think that's huge for Michi. And you're, from a coaching perspective, if you're Lamont Paris, you can go back and watch the film and say, this is what we've been telling you in practice. This is what we've been telling you. You went out there and did it, and you saw the results. And I think that that's huge for South Carolina moving forward.
So if you're South Carolina, Collyn, what do you take from this game against Kentucky and try to replicate as you continue with the schedule?
The aggression and the energy that South Carolina played with, especially early. They I think they started 5 of 8 from the field, 4 of 7 from the field, and it wasn't fluky. They didn't hit a bunch of turnaround, fade away, off balance threes or these crazy shots. They were getting to the rim. They were forcing turnovers, getting into the open court. The defensive energy turned into offensive production. So that's huge if you're South Carolina. I think that you can take that and replicate it. Now, do I think South Carolina is going to go out there and shoot 11 of 20 from 3 every single game? Probably not. But you saw the aggression. You saw the energy you have to play with night in and night out in the SEC. And that's huge. If you can replicate that, I'm not saying you're going to go out there and average almost 1.3 points per possession. But you certainly feel better about your chances to compete against Texas A&M on Saturday, against Ole Miss, against Auburn, against Georgia, against Florida. You feel better about your chances there, and you're starting to kind of see some guys start to believe that a little bit more than maybe they did 2 weeks ago, or even after Saturday's game against Tennessee.
And it's amazing, what a win like that can do for that belief, as you mentioned. And I think it speaks so much to the maturity of some of these younger guys, because Kentucky started to close in towards the end of that game. They kept their composure, they maintained their calmness, and they were able to finish it. And I think that's something that's so hard, especially for young teams to do, and especially on the road in the SEC. And as you mentioned, they're facing Texas A&M here this week on Saturday. So certainly things not getting easier for South Carolina as they continue with the schedule. But we talked about it a few weeks ago, Collyn, when we were discussing men's basketball. And you were like, I don't know where fans should really be at when it comes to expectations for the season. Kind of keep them low, keep them mild, because we just don't really know with this team. Do you feel like you found out more about this team after last night's win? And do you think maybe the expectations can be just a trace higher than what they were a couple weeks ago?
I think so. I think you learned a lot. We saw what we've kind of seen with Gigi, with Michi, with, Hayden Brown playing productively, especially early. But what you saw was the competitiveness. South Carolina lost by 43 points at home 72 hours before that game. It would have been easy for them to say, it's Kentucky, we're going to Rupp. No one wins at Rupp. They've won almost 30 straight games at Rupp. Like, pack it in. Texas A&M at home on Saturday. Let's really get ready for that one. But give credit to Hayden Brown, give credit to Michi, because they were like, nah, that ain't us. And they go out there and start the game on a 13-2 run, really get things going. And it says a lot about the mental fortitude that no matter what, this still is not a tournament team, I don't think, but no matter what, you're talking about a South Carolina team that has shown some competitive fire and some improvement. And I think that that's a good thing if you're South Carolina, and certainly something you got to bottle. You can't do it on one night and not on another, but certainly a good positive sign moving forward if you're South Carolina.
Consistency is key, and a huge statement win for Lamont Paris and his crew over Kentucky last night at Rupp Arena. The first one for the Gamecocks on the road at Kentucky since 2009. Michi Johnson, 6 3-pointers, 26 points, a career high for him. Gigi Jackson with 16 points. Gotta get all these stats right. Sometimes it's a little hard when you're at hockey, you got Spencer saying he's coming back, you got basketball happening, we know baseball's coming up. Crazy times. Crazy times at South Carolina, but we love it. We love the news. We keep you posted over on GamecockCentral.com. So be sure to check us out there. Check us out on all of our social medias at Gamecock Central. And Collyn, you just keep on hanging in there, because I know life is busy for you right now, and it's a lot of fun, but it's definitely exhausting at times.
Yes, a lot of coffee, a lot of quick meals on the road these next couple weeks, and wouldn't trade it for the world. It's never ending, but when you get to cover wins like you did last night, and get to engage with the fan base when good things are happening, it's not a bad life to live.
I will say really quickly before we get out of here, last night I get home from the hockey game and my dad goes, "Guess what happened tonight? Guess what happened?" As if I would know. And I was like, "Spencer's coming back?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "The hockey team lost?" And he goes, "No." And he goes, "Kentucky got beat by South Carolina," because, as I said, my parents went to Indiana. So in this household, they're very happy anytime that a team can beat Kentucky. So men's basketball team made the Smith household very excited last night. But yeah, I think that's all we got today. Just talking about the future for South Carolina basketball after a big old win last night against Kentucky. Collyn, appreciate all of your insight and analysis as usual, and you will have plenty more coming everybody's way. So be sure to stick with us here on Gamecock Central. But until next time, he's Collyn Taylor. I'm Kendall Smith, and this has been another Gamecock Central episode. See you soon.